Hey, I'm going to transition us into a whole different direction. And that's what's nice about video too. This thing can play in one segment on podcast. We can also chop up and get cool segments out of it. So as I was sitting here kind of listening to you and thinking about all the different dialogues we have in our Devos, I don't want to just keep you in the lane that everybody always associates you with. And that's obviously, the athletic lane, the transition from able-bodied to disabled into athletics. You're also what I would consider, a deep believer. You have a strong man of faith. I always love the different ways scripture hits you. And when I was thinking about questions I wanted to ask you earlier, I kind of had a couple different directions, obviously identity being one of the big ones. But I also wanted to even talk about just like the church as a whole, right? Like, you didn't necessarily tell me about your childhood experiences with church, and then kind of that coming to Jesus moment as it pertains to church itself.
Yeah, I had a normal / not normal past. So let's break it down a little bit. So I grew up in the church. I grew up in a Christian home, Assemblies of God, mostly, and then E-free kind of in middle school, high school. And so but was always like kind of a fence sitter, like most teenagers are, I guess. But, being in youth group, and then also kind of like not being in youth group really, and not making it my own. And then also, and I grew up in a church that didn't talk about the authentic, real things in youth group. It was one of the things that I think kept me away from growing in community. Was there just was no authenticity there. We didn't get to talk about sex. We didn't get to talk about drugs. We didn't get to talk about some things that a lot of teenagers go through and are curious about and are thinking about. And it's and so that was a big turnoff for me. And then after my accident, I went to Northwestern College up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and studied pastoral studies. And after I transferred from Winona State, and that was also, I had some really close friends there that I made in my orientation group, but I also was completely turned off by like the Christian bubble. And then again, people being inauthentic and just not talking about real stuff. And I think like that's a huge problem for the church is we're supposed to be a community that is loving. And I think we turn that love into judging really, really quick. Or at least it's perceived as that. And I think it's probably well perceived as that because we just don't do a good job of going like, we're broken, we're sinners, we mess up all the time. And it's really messy. And like, we're not supposed to be, we're not made to be perfect. We're made to point it to the perfect one. And of course we're on the pursuit of that and we're striving to be that, but like, we're never that. And let's talk about the real things going on. Let's talk about how we sucked this week. Let's talk about like how I messed it up with my wife this week and how I'm working on it. And so like having that real discipleship, it's something I've always craved in my life, real discipleship, real mentor, mentee, back and forth, building each other up as believers. And so like, that's my heart. That's where I'm at and where I want people to understand, like, this is not a deal where it's not kumbaya. This isn't some like group where we're not going to talk about things that are actually going on.